So given that I'm showing you the onboarding steps, what I'll do is I will come over here to notifications, actually templates, and show you that I've added an email for onboarding. So very easy, add in your onboarding email, and then let's have a look at our CRM. So we've got James Bond over here, and you'll notice that I don't have a contact for James attached to the client record. So let's go into the contact section where, yes, I've got James already. Now I'll just show you what a contact record looks like. And you'll see that it's really got a bit of information about the client which is associated with his contact. But notice that this contact record can be associated with multiple clients. So we've got Edwards & Co, which is a company that James Bond manages, so he's the director of this company. And what we'll do is we will step into this company and we'll make some changes in here by adding, so we'll add a contact and we'll add a selected contact, which is James. So we're selecting James and we're putting him in as director, and he will be the contact and the billing, so the signatory and the billing contact. Now notice that we don't have director's ID for James at this stage, so maybe he'll provide that during the onboarding phase. Now when you've connected a contact to a client, don't forget to save, and now we'll do the same for James. So we're going to go to James's record, James's client record, and we will edit and add in a contact. So again, we've got him as a contact record, and again we'll add him. If he gets billed in his own right, he'll both be the signatory and the billing contact. Okay, and again, don't forget to save. Now what we can do is we can now, if we want, create a group. So let's put them into a group. So we've got Edwards, and then we've got James. So you can do this here, or you can do this if you're using another system. So let's call this the bond group. So we've got them in a group, but now we can onboard. So let's onboard the contact, which is James, and we will invite. So we're inviting James, noting that he's associated with both Bond James himself and Delphore Equestrian, which is the trading name for Edwards & Co. And here we can insert our email template, an onboarding email template. So to Noble & Associates. So give your onboarding a title, and we could go and set up some reminders for this particular email, but let's leave that for the meantime. Now that's been sent, now let's go and see what will happen if we come in here and have a look at Gmail, because James, I'm now James the client, and of course James has now got the email. Oh, I missed the spelling, so you maybe take a bit of care with the spelling, but let's follow through and go to the sign up. So now don't forget I'm acting as James the client, and I've got to get my text message. So 363616. Okay, and we're in. So you'll notice here that I'm onboarding both James and Delphore Equestrian. So I can check through if, I'm James, I might have a middle name. Let's say Edward. Obviously I use that name to name my company. And I could put in my director's ID. So let's just put in a string. TFN. Now, currently we don't have the algorithm to test for the validity of the TFN because that's obviously not a TFN, but let's step our way through this. Okay, so I'm having problems, invalid. Oh wow, we do have the algorithm. Okay, cool. Well, I won't add it because obviously you can see that it's possible to add in. And now I can add in any information about my company. Now, typically what you will have done as the service provider is make sure that you've got the relevant information as best you can. Probably just the TFN that you're going to need from the client. You should already have the ACN and the ABN because you can look those up, and we will certainly add in an ACN and ABN lookup. Now the address, maybe it's different to the director, but again, this you should have put in as much of this as you can, and maybe you've asked the director for specific documents. Now, at this stage, we're saying not now because we don't want our clients creating an Accziom account just yet. We really want to get things bedded down with what I'm showing you, and by the time we've requested you to start using the system or suggested you start using it, we will have removed this so your clients won't have the opportunity to onboard. But essentially, onboarding gives them their own profile in the system that they can log in without waiting for codes from you. Now for onboarding, we're going to head over to settings and templates, and in the templates we're going to add one more. So we've got our email templates here, and we want one more template, and we're going to call this our info request. Right, so we've added in our template. Don't forget to save, and now we can go to our briefings, and we will create a new template first. So info collection, and we'll add in a section. Let's call this motor vehicle work related. Now, of course, you can put in descriptions and all the rest. I'm just quickly doing this to give you a sense of how it works. We need a question, so we'll drop in a table, and we've got our description and an amount, and we only need 2 columns, and we need a heading, and you probably want to put in a description saying please add annual totals by type, i.e. so you might have stationary. Okay. Of course, you could link to your own help guide on your website. That would be useful. And now we want one more question, and we know that the client has bought a new vehicle, so actually we want another section. So add another section, and this will be new vehicle, and we'll add the question, not that one, add the question, which will be a file upload. So you can see over here we're at the heading, and this will be contract and hire purchase. So maybe you need a description, which is add both. Okay, and you can have a look and see how this is going to look for the client by looking at it at the preview. So you can see they're going to step through here, right? So let's now, we've called it info collection, so just remember what it's called, because when you head back here and send the briefing to the client, we're going to send this to James Bond, and we're going to send it in the context of his company. So it'll be Delphor Equestrian. He'll be the recipient. and we need we created that as info collection, and we need a date that we want this done by, so we're giving him until Monday. Information request, and we'll insert that template and go to the reminder. Now we'll activate a reminder for every 3 days if he doesn't get around to getting it done within the time frame. So that's now sent. So let's now head over to signing in as the client. Now you can see here, hi, please provide, and now the client will work their way through this process. And they need to just wait for the text code. And they're in. Okay, so I mean, we will make some additional changes to this to make it easier to understand, but in terms of attaching the bank statement, it looks like I've sent them a different information request. But anyway, let's just see if we can put something in here, just as an example. And so let's call this, maybe it's a financial planning business, noting that I'm marking that as done. Physical address. Okay, so mark that as done. Financial planning, I'll mark that as done. Physical address, I marked as draft, let's mark it as done. Bank account, we want another document, let's just put the same one there again. Okay, I'll mark that as done. So bank statement, and we've already added it, so we'll mark it as done. We will make some additional changes here to make this a little easier on the client to understand that the ticks, because the ticks over here are not quite evident enough, and they will then submit that document or that info request set. So now let's go back over here, reload, and what you have now is you have the information. So we're back in as the service provider, and you can see here you've got the information. So you could download that. You've got the address, you've got the information that you've requested. So that's pretty much the flow for information collection using a brief. Now you'll see this company Z client here doesn't have a contact, so I can't send a proposal to this entity. So let's add in an existing client, which is Bond, James Bond. And noting here that we will make this person with respect to this company a contact signatory and the billing contact. There's two different types of contacts. I'm going to save that. So now if we go to contracts and add a proposal for company Z, we'll use an email template. This is a general proposal email. Once the client has finished the briefing, they will be asked to create an account. Now we don't want that. We don't want clients creating accounts. It causes too much grief. You can choose to omit the billing section from the proposal. This is useful for contracts with no fixed cost. Okay, so you don't need the billing section, but in this case we want the fixed costs, and we'll automatically countersign the proposal. So what we had what we have in the Accziom system is bidirectional signing, so the deal ends up getting signed by both parties. Now the issue here is that you'll see it doesn't mind it actually. So you can see I can add a custom item or select from templates. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select from the templates that we have. So we've got all these templates. I will take you through the templates in a moment and show you in more detail what these do. But let's go to company. So I'll have a company tax return. We'll have financial statements. We will have ASIC annual return. We will have activity statement. Now you'll see that I'm putting in activity statements for all 4 quarters. Could also put them in for the months. I guess the reason that you might consider doing something like this is if you want to use this as part of your tracking. So you could consider this, especially if we had estimated dates when we can deliver the services, as a tool that helps you manage the tracking of your service delivery. Now look, we're also going to add in an individual tax return. You can see there's other ways of breaking down individual tax returns into their components. But here the reason I'm doing this is to show you that from within the group, you can then select you can select the individual associated with the tax return. So these are all associated with the company Z. All these are associated with the company Z, but this is associated with James Bond. So this is it's the proposal is generated to company Z, but it's really in relation to the group. And that's an important distinction because clients don't typically want to get a million different proposals. They rather just have one proposal and one monthly fee, or if it's a once-off service, just one fee. So you can see we've got some options here. We could raise an upfront payment, require an upfront payment, so that would have an invoice issued within X days of that of the deal getting signed. Another way to do it is require payment on completion, in which case you need some kind of trigger for the completion. Same kind of concept again. 2 payments, 1 day within days of signing the contract, another balance after the completion of all the tasks. That's the second option. And the third option here is the amount where you might get a certain amount up front. Let's just say it was 50%, and the balance over 12 payments once every month. You can see how the system breaks that out with the installment payment up front. And you can see here we've got the option to adjust the price at this level. But before I do that, I'd rather just show you that I can come back here, click in here and change the price. So noting here that you've got your granular details about that particular service. So now we've changed that to 500. We go to the billing. Okay, so you'll notice that that's 500, and moreover, your option here, your consideration here is, do you show the granular details to the client? Because this could well just be useful as your internal calculator for your firm, where you derive a value, but you don't actually expose the value to the client, because you don't want the client to get sticker shock over a big number, and you'd much rather just have them seeing, oh, okay, so I need to go back through this, billing. I don't want them to see the granular detail, so don't show the prices. Now you could see this was a once-off, right? But here we want installments. Now the typical way of doing this is maybe you don't have any deposit, 100%, and then across typically 12 months. I'm not so sure about days, weeks, but look, I mean, that's how the system was built, and now you can see it just divides that by 12. So pretty simple. Now you could do a final adjustment. You could do a discount. So let's do a 10% discount, noting the change in the price, or a 20% uplift. Okay, so I'm going to take that out, adjust the price. That's called a markup. Let's go 20% up, and then that's up, right? And it'll change these values accordingly. Now, the question here is direct debit via bank account or credit card only. This is to force the client to take action and add their bank details. You don't want to be onboarding the client without them making the effort, well, without them giving you their details so you can collect payment. Otherwise, what ends up happening is every month you've got to go and chase the client because they're lazy and they don't send you the $308. Go to the agreement. Now we need to import the right template here. So this is a periodic. You see it's got the slot holders, and you can preview. So it's in relation to company Z, and you'll see what it does is it then picks up the scopes. So it picks up the scope for the tax return preparation, it picks up the scope for the financial reporting preparation, etc. And I'll keep the scopes. So let's send that proposal. So that's now gone. Let's see if we can see that proposal in our Gmail. So here's the proposal. Based on recent conversation, of course you wouldn't send a proposal to a client without discussing it first. This is what they see on the email body. So you'll see the email body picks up the details, view the proposal, and let's check for the text message. 630552. Okay, confirm. Go to billing. So this is pretty much all the client is seeing, just the monthly installments. Now the problem here is it doesn't seem to have reflected the amount. They still need to see that, and you can see here they can drill into each one of those, each one of the services. So this is the individual tax return, they've got the detail, and then they've got the scope. They got the detail, and then they got the scope, etc. Okay. Go to billing. Yeah, for some reason it hasn't shown the dollar value, but let's just put in our bank details. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna just disregard this one because I don't need to put in the bank details here. Let's do this again. So the way that we can do it again is this proposal was viewed, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to delete this one, and then I'm going to come into this one. Let's try to see why, if for some reason it dropped out the dollar values. Actually, does it matter? Probably not. Probably not. Go to billing, installments once a month. Might have been to do with the uplift, who knows. They should have show price details to the client. If you show the price details to the client, let's try this one now. Send that proposal. Let's come back over here. That's proposal. This is like the duplicate one now. Notice how I said show the dollar values, right? View the proposal. And here what we have is again the text. Okay, now the client sees the details. Okay, and moreover, I won't go any further on this one. You can see it's actually picked up the credit card settings, which I need to show you, but let's just close out of this, because what I'd rather do is just do a simple one. I'll do a simple one where we go and let's just create a new proposal. This will just be for James. Tax return. Okay. Insert an email. So now we want a general proposal email, and we don't want the client to onboard. We want to bill by Accziom, and we want to automatically countersign. Okay, and you see it doesn't like the duplicate titles, which is not the greatest. And now we need just test, because now I'll actually add my credit card. So go to billing, and this will get billed in a single payment after signing the contract. Now again, show the price to the client, direct debit. This will use the individual tax return template, which is a simpler template, and send. Now let's go and have a look again. Here we go. So view that proposal. And again, 168577. Go to billing. It's in here. Now I consent. Now notice with the credit card payments, I don't think that you'll notice that these didn't actually get activated, but I will activate one in a minute to show you. Credit card. Okay, just so that you can see how this will flow, how this proposal will flow. You can see this is the one that was viewed, right? But what we want to do now is we want to duplicate it, and then we'll delete out the old one. And what we'll do with this duplicate is we will turn off the requirement to collect the money bill. So go to, actually, I think we can go back to the proposal details, bill this. No, we won't bill. Oh yeah, we will bill it, but we won't require the credit card. That's what I have to change. So I need to change the direct debit requirement so you can see the flow all the way through. So, okay. So this time hopefully you'll be able to see the full flow, because it seems my credit card and bank detail is not working. So 822792 2. So you can see now I'm able to pass the billing step because there's no bank. Go to the agreement, required to scroll, you want the client to see that, and then go to the engagement, sign the contract. Right. So you'll notice that you get the hash on the page, IP address, and moreover the client will generally have access to this if he is logged into his portal. So what I haven't showed you is the client portal aspect. Now let's get out of there, we come back here, and if we go home, proposal has been signed by the client and auto countersigned. So what that essentially means is that the contract, it's become a contract, right? If we drill into it, we can have a look. So here it is. Here's that whole proposal in contract with the contract between, and both have signed. Now notice that our system auto signed, and then what will have happened is that will have sent, well, after an hour or so, this will get messaged through to QuickBooks, and QuickBooks should trigger and send off an invoice, and then that invoice will get collected on the agreement now. Something went wrong. Okay, so it's still, okay, so that still doesn't work. Let's try a bank account. Okay, so doesn't want the bank account either. Okay. Okay, so you can see we've got some kind of issue with the bank account. But anyway, that would normally trigger to the flow, the deal flow. So let me close out of here, and I'll come back into the system here, and I'll just do a show around. So on our home page, how we track deals going through is when clients sign deals. You can see this one. This is a monthly invoice getting initiated, and it'll typically be followed by a Stripe payment within a few days. And here's another one with a live client. So these ones have been going for some time. If I was to look at the clients here, these are clients joining the platform. Actually, most of them are just me getting people coming on board with demos and the like. But yeah, there's a couple of live clients that came on and facilitated payments. So the actual payments flowing through, you can see these ones have been triggered and flow on a monthly basis. So there's the 405.66 for Emulsh and the 239.40 for Lever. There's the 405.66 for Emulsh, and then you can see when the invoice gets triggered. So it's telling us when the invoice gets triggered, it's telling us when the payments get made, it's letting us know when there's issues. So when there's a connection break to QBO, we're getting alerted. And of course, if you're happy with these, you can just sort of close them out. Well, I guess here I've jumped over to the settings. So obviously we've got these settings. We needed to upload the client lists from Logit. We've got the mail server. We've got the payment gateway. Now here you can see you can part. This is a big requirement, the passing on of the Stripe fees. The templates. So we've got the engagement letter templates. Each one of them is a slightly different template. Moreover, we've got the service scopes, because what happens is the service scopes can generalize across the top of a number of different services. So for instance, the tax return scope, which talks specifically about building a tax return, is relevant with respect to all of the tax return type services. So all of these have a link and would then initiate and include the tax return scope in the case where there is the service included. Any tax return service included in a proposal will therefore bring in the tax return scope. So instead of having to have a separate scope for every server, for every tax return service, you have a single scope, and that scope's reused across all tax return type services. Now here we do have the ability to link these to specific accounts inside of QuickBooks or Xero, because of course accounting firms want to track the data flows according to their sales. So if they're selling a particular type of service, actually this income account is linked to the service, right? So you could have a separate income account for every one of your services that you deliver. It's not linked to the scope, it's linked to the service. And enable service billing, so disable this option for variable cost items such as cost per hour. So if you just want to use the description, you don't want to use the fixed, start with a fee, you're just going to describe the service but not say what the fee is for a fixed service, then you would disable it, and then you wouldn't have a dollar value. Moreover, publishing this service to my service page, the original plan was we would have, and you can see here, you get the kind of client portal for any of those services that are sort of published to the portal page. In the financial information, you can see we're tracking upcoming invoices. So these ones will all be upcoming shortly. These are all ones that have been invoiced, and you can see we get notified as to, well, that one's processing, right? These ones are manual, so the values will have gone through through QuickBooks. So it would have been auto-generated through to QuickBooks. No money would have been collected. When the money is collected and applied in QuickBooks, then messages sent back to Accziom, and these would have been changed to paid. Okay, so lever profits. We did have an early event where one of the amounts failed because, as it turned out, the Stripe thought this might be an illegitimate transaction, so they failed it. Yeah, but these ones are all paid. So you can see these are all actual live direct debits that have gone against actual live test clients. Okay, all collected, and you can see manual one would have been processed. So partners, we originally had the plan for a partner referral network, and I guess that was put on the back burner because it was pretty evident that you need a whole lot of infrastructure and capability just to service providers, as you can see from what I've been showing you. So that, in a nutshell, is the system. Templates, we've covered those. The service scopes explain the emails, 3 different types of emails: an information request email, an onboarding email, a general proposal email. You could have other ones, I suppose, if you wanted to have specific templates written for specific emails, for specific proposals, specific types of proposals. And then briefing reminders. This is where really we should create conditions for how frequently the reminder should happen. So after 3 days, hi, please don't forget. Please don't forget. Okay, or whatever you've got to say. And then you can see it has the capability to. Okay, we've got our users, and I think that's pretty much it.